systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Excited to be talking some fights with my man, Big Marley. Probably the worst card of the year if we're talking just 12 fights on paper. I don't know. There are going to be a couple fun ones, but the name value really isn't great. A lot of expected decisions. But hey, Big Marley, we play a little different game. DFS. This is one of the best 12-fight DFS cards I think we've had. No favorites above minus 225. Only one favorite is above minus 200 in Miranda Maverick, one of the most likely to go to decision. So DraftKings, they like to price. They don't price people the same. So like they want to go 93, 92, 91 and keep going. So we're going to have a lot of overpriced people, a lot of underpriced people. At the end of the day, you need 6 winners. Definitely don't be stacking on this card. It's going to be a lot of fun. Salary pretty much irrelevant to an extent at least, but very fun DFS card, even though not the best real life card. Excited to talk some fights with you. How you doing today?
Yes, sir. Yeah, definitely a tough one. One where we really should be leaving salary on the table. No big favorites, no locks on this card at all. Hard to find fades too, to be honest with you, but looking forward to talking with you and breaking it down. I'm going to be doing ownership as we go through this show, so you'll be able to pop in there in like 10, 20 minutes or so and have most of that done.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. So ownership, yeah, everything, projections, ownership, all of our breakdowns, slate plan, tier rankings will be up shortly after the show into the night. So definitely check that out. If you're not a member right now, no better time to get in. This is how you get MMA. You don't just get MMA. You'll get all of our sports. The NFL package, you can see. SHIPIT Nation, 4 competitors. You can guess, do whatever you want. That's not the point of what the competitors are. We just want to show what we offer for NFL coming up compared to the rest. $299 for all of our NFL package. That's not including some of those bonuses that you can see down below in the bottom left. I'll get to just NFL, $299. We are one of the only ones that do include the optimizer with it. You see, you got to pay $300, $500 and up in some places to add just an optimizer alone on top of the content. You see the total cost right there with an optimizer, everything, $299 at SHIPIT Nation. Times 2, times 3, times 4 even almost to some places to get all of the NFL package. You're getting projections, you're getting ownership, quality content, such a great NFL year. Last year, we want you to play more in contests, pay less for content. That's what we're doing over here. That's been our motto since day one. And as you can see in that bottom left, early bird bonus. Not only if you sign up right now, you can go to the banner. Otherwise, you get NFL 50. I'll get you the promo code in a sec. Free, all access until NFL. So you sign up right now today, you get MMA this weekend, PGA going on right now, fun PGA event for sure. Showdown contests are big, NASCAR, MLB back from the All-Star break. All of our content on the site, Discord access, Shiptimizer access until NFL season, all of that, $299. Also do get college football when it comes for free. People pay for college football, $200+ at a lot of sites out there. That will be free, including the NFL package. Right here, as you can see, NFL 50. If you just go to the banner, it shows on the website, shipitnation.com, $299. You do not need any promo code. If you go join the nation, and you do need to put in the promo code NFL 50, is that $349 down to $299. Shiptimizer, projections, ownership, slate plan, showdown content, tiers content, afternoon content from Big Marley, best ball stuff going on. And again, all access until NFL season if you sign up now. No better deal in the industry. And of course, shout out our partner sponsoring this show, Drafters. Head over to drafters.com, jump in some $15 drafts, some $2 drafts. They will match 100% from $20 all the way to $100. Who do we got in chat today? I see my man Rio. What's going on, Rio? He actually will be on the MMA show in 2 weeks with my man Big Marley. I'll be out of town. Rio will step in. Won a lot of cheese in the MMA streets, so I'm excited for that. Ben's in here, G. Kiefer, MP, Daniels, Takedown, Nadesify, Bring the Noise, What's going on? Hope everybody doing well. As Nate says, smash that like button. Takes 2 seconds out of your day. Helps us out a ton, whether you're watching live, watching on playback, and definitely check out the MLB show that's back today. Nades and Ham on that. I said a lot of words, Big Marley. Anything you want to say about this card, about our deal coming up for NFL, 12 fights, overview, take it away. Save my breath a little bit before we go fight by fight.
Yeah, no brainer for the NFL. Get over there, sign up if you haven't yet. I've already had people hitting me up in Discord looking for that code. So they're already signed up. You guys should as well if you haven't yet, but we got it all and we've been crushing it. So get over there now. And I just put in ownership the first run as well. So we'll have a little bit of that to talk to as well. But if you're a member, you can go check it out as soon as probably as soon as the show is over with.
Yep, absolutely. Let's go. And then Daniels, this card stuck out. This card's so bad. And if you're like me, can barely work on it, still have 150, something like this. Speaking of salary, can you leave salary like that? Absolutely. That's kind of what I said at the beginning. My full card breakdown overview before we go fight by fight. Yes, because so many, like you could theoretically see 6 dogs on the winner and it wouldn't be that crazy because plus 105 is a dog, plus 100 is a dog, plus 110 is a dog. You see that win in MMA all the time. There's plus 110, plus 115 fighters at like 7,500 because of line movement and the biggest favorite minus 200 went to minus 220, 93, and they want to keep rattling off down. So definitely can use leave money on this card. You should be looking to try and get unique. Absolutely. But like dupes will be way down in general, but you don't want to be on the highest dupes lineup. There's so many different combinations. Again, one of the best 12 fight cards you'll see. Finding fades are tough. I think ownership will be spread out and not too many fights expected to finish. Only one over minus 200 inside the distance. So yeah, it's a tricky card. It's a fun card. Definitely check out ownership. I'll be taking a look. Big Marley just got it up. It's not on the site yet. I'm not going to say too much out loud because I think it's really a week. You want to be a member at SHIPIT Nation to get those ownership projections. Mess around with the Shiptimizer that's going on for free as well. Signed up for the whole year. Great deal. DeGen is with SHIPIT now. Yes, DeGen will be doing the college football. Yeah, right here. Seriously, no brainer. Is Jen included in college football? Yes, he is. DeGen, Smarty in the chat, has absolutely been on fire in the college streets as well. He'll be helping out, but DeGen's bringing over the stone, doing projections, what he did for college football in the past. I'm not going to say that word, but yes, $299 for just NFL and college football. No chance you can beat that deal, as you see right there in the comparison. I mean, it's night and day brainer. That's just NFL. The other sites are talking, but y'all, the consumer, you guys spend your money how you wish. Let's talk some fights, Big Marley. Bottom to top, like always. 12 to talk about. Buckle in. It is a tough card. First one of the night. Heavyweights. Pretty gross fight here. Muhammad Usman, Thomas Peterson. Minus 120 for Usman. Plus 100 for Peterson. Plus 155 for this fight to finish. Usman plus 275 inside the distance. Peterson plus 385. Take it away.
Yeah, first fight of the night, I like the underdog. I kind of think this line should be flipped. And if Peterson won his UFC debut, I feel like he could even be a 2-1 favorite in this one. Really, the best thing or the most impressive thing about Usman is his size. He's just a big, strong dude, and he just relies on power for everything. So he's huge. He could knock out Peterson with one shot. He's not really a good wrestler, but he's just so big and heavy that he can get takedowns. And then when he does get takedowns, he can hang out in top control. He just doesn't do a lot with it. When he does get the takedowns, he just kind of grinds out time. And it's dang near a pick 'em line at this point, but he is 8,800 on DraftKings. So I really just don't expect any ownership to go to him. I think he is in play for that ownership play, but more likely we need a knockout from him. But Peterson, he's our better wrestler, and he's also our more active wrestler too. When he's on the ground, he's landing ground and pound. He's looking for submissions. And I also think he's kind of the better striker too. Maybe not when he tires out, but Usman's not a cardio king himself either. So I like Peterson in this one. 7,400, I think, is a bargain. I think he has 110-point upside as well, especially if he can get the cardio in check here. But yeah, I'm going to be overweight to Peterson. And then I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the Usman. Like, I really don't want much Usman, but nobody's going to want Usman at 8,800. And that's what kind of does make me want to get a little bit of exposure to him. So I'll mix him in. I'm not going to force him into lineups, but if I get double the field, if that's what the Shiptimizer gives me, then I'm good with it. So mainly Peterson, but ownership play, Usman's in there as well.
Yeah, I won't get to Usman in 20 teams or less. Again, it's an ownership play, like you said. And he's minus 120 is a plus 275 inside the distance, like prop. So that's not bad by any means. He's low volume. He has a big left hand. So I guess, I mean, he's a grown ass man. If you look like these two walk out in a bar, everyone's picking Usman. No one's picking Thomas Peterson. It's one of those fights if you want to go that way. But yeah, talking upside, like Usman pretty much feels round one or bust. It's really hard to cap. Like, I don't even know what his round one prop is. Let me check. I mean, I didn't even look because it has to be awful. Plus 700. So pretty much he's plus 700 to be optimal is how I look at it. 8,800. Just no chance I want to get there in 20 teams or less. I'm with you on Peterson. I still don't love it because I just don't love this fight in general. I think Usman, it probably stays on the feet. He can stuff most takedowns. And on the feet, it's going to be low volume. But Peterson, by far, I think if someone's scoring 100 plus, I think it's going to be Peterson. He has way more wrestling takedown upside, control time upside, like you said, a late finish. Like if he does spend a lot of time on top too. So I'll have him in my pool. Probably going to cap his exposure too, though. Maybe 25%, something like that. Because so many close fights on the card. Like you're not fading anyone on this card because you don't think they can win. Like everyone has fine money line value. You want 100 plus. Peterson, I think, has it in his best scenario. So I'll get some. But more than likely, I think it plays out on the feet. Goes to decision. It's boring. Maybe against the clinch. Winner scores 80 or something like that. Peterson, though, both of our preferred plays. Let's keep it rolling. Next fight on the card. The lowest owned fight, the worst fight. Lucy Pudilova taking on Luana Carolina. Minus 110 apiece. Flip a coin on both sides. Plus 275 for this fight to finish. Carolina plus 480 inside the distance. Pudilova plus 460. If you want to play it for ownership, sure. The thing is on this card, it's going to be so spread out. We have nobody above 50% because so many closely lined fights, not too many expected to finish. It's not that hard to get different. You can easily leave 1,000. Look at different combinations of a couple fighters, etc. I don't think we need to get to this really low-owned fight or really low-owned Usman to get different. It's not one of those cards for me. I'm going to pick fighters I think have 100-plus point upside. It's MMA, so of course anybody does, but man, these two feel like they have some of the worst upside on the slate. Nothing for me in 20 and below. I will have 0.
Yeah, I'm good with that. This should mainly be a striking match. Either one of them could mix in takedowns. I just think Pudilova's more likely to shoot for him. And I just see it being a split decision type of fight either way, where it's really close on the feet. We don't really have a lean either way. We're not going to have any idea what the judges are going to say at the end of this. So I really think they're playing for like 75 to 85 points. Don't really see 100-point upside in this one. So I think I'll probably be right there with you, Xing both of them out. But they won't be owned. So if you want to use them, go ahead and do that. And if one of them could win all 3 rounds, they both land decent volume. So it wouldn't completely shock me to see one of them put up 95 and be on the optimal. So I have it as a 2-star instead of a 1-star over on the rankings. But if I'm making 20 or less lineups, I really don't want to click on either one of these names, especially because I don't have a strong lean on it. So I'm not trying to click on Pudilova first, duplicate the lineup, and then throw Carolina in another one. Feel like I'm throwing away 2 lineups in that case. So I'd have to get 100 or more lineups before I start dabbling into this one, I think. So my favorite fight on the card to fade. Hopefully it is a split decision, really close. And my only worry is that it's a small cage. So is that going to make it too much volume where we're sweating it when the 3rd round where these guys are just these girls are having a war? I don't know. With 20 or less, I'm cool with that sweat, but give me Pudilova by super close split.
Yeah, I mean, you're just parlaying so much. It's a minus 110 on both sides. You're coin flipping, getting the winner right. Plus 275 to finish. More than likely, you probably need a finish. If it's a decision, yeah, maybe a bunch of volume, but even 150 significant strikes on the Carolina side and a win. I don't think that's probably optimal. Pudilova would be my preferred side because I think she has more takedown upside, like you're saying. But 20 teams or less, you can make a case for every single fighter on this card, I think, pretty easily. You got to fade some fights. This is definitely one I will be fading. And we also, so ownership, if you go on ShipItNation.com, projections, ownership up there right now. So if you want to follow along, I even wrote in the slate plan. I think the best way to approach MMA is I would watch this show before reading any content. Even if Saturday morning you're a SHIPIT member, you pull up the show, I would pull up the show before looking at any of our slate plans, tier rankings, etc., and then have ownership next to it. Because I come on here, I do all my thoughts before talking to Big Marley, looking at any of his content, but I do value what he says. So some of my stuff changes a bit. He has ownership posted shortly before the show. So I have ownership numbers in my head. That's the first time I look at it as well. And then talking things out, getting whole slate dynamic, stars and scrub, mid-tier, etc. I think, and again, I wrote this to start it off on the show or in my slate plan because I said read the overview first since it's such a unique card. But I really think show and ownership, that is your first process, then digging in, Shiptimizer, everything else, probably the way to go when researching MMA. That was a side tangent, but something I wanted to talk about. So ownership is up. Refresh ShipitNation.com, projections up as well if you want to follow along. Next fight on the card, Loic Raziov taking on Trey Ogden. Another one that's pretty much a coin flip. Minus 114 is Raziov, minus 106 is Ogden, plus 160 for this fight to finish. Raziov plus 240 inside the distance, Ogden plus 500. Two guys that want to really get the fight on the mat. Raziov over 5 takedowns, almost six takedowns per 15 minutes. Now that number is skewed a bit from the Ribovics fight in his debut. Ribovics didn't have much takedown defense. He kept getting back up, kept getting dumped back down. However, Raziov wants to wrestle, power in his hands. When he does land, volume is low though. Ogden just known for being a boring fighter, high IQ fighter. But man, can that guy grapple? So this one could be on the mat a lot, scramble fest, etc. I have some interest, even though it is expected to go the distance. What about you?
Yeah, I like this fight. A decent amount, I guess. Loic, he is the better offensive wrestler. He's got more power in his hands too, so he's more live for a knockout, but Ogden has never been knocked out. He's also never been taken down in the UFC, so I don't know how many takedowns we can rely on for the Loic side. I think Ogden is going to be our more technical, higher volume striker with better cardio. And I also think he could do more in top control if he's able to get Loic down. I think Trey's coming, like he looks like he's in the prime of his career right now, coming off his 2 best performances that I've ever seen, even including the regional scene pretty much. And that makes me like him as the underdog. I wouldn't hate putting a bet on him, to be honest with you. I think he could be a favorite in this matchup. Loic, his wins are just not that impressive. I mean, he's got that 11 takedown win, but that was against a guy who had just 0 takedown defense in his UFC debut. I don't think that that's even remotely in play in this matchup. And even if he does get takedowns, I'm not so sure he's not getting reversed, and Ogden's being the better one on the mat overall. So I'll get some Loic exposure, but I think that the field will be on him more than I want to get to. So I'll be underweight to Loic. And then Ogden, I will be overweight to, but we really need him to get the fight to the ground because he's not a high volume striker. He's just a higher volume striker than Loic, and he doesn't have power in his hands either. So I wouldn't rely on a knockout from him either. So if he is looking to grapple, he could definitely put up 90 plus points. But if he's looking to strike, then he's probably not even hitting 10x. So I don't know exactly how much exposure I'll get to him, but he is my preferred play of the two. And he's the guy that I'm picking to win. I think he gets at least 2 rounds here, maybe all 3.
So let's say he wins 29-28, couple takedowns. Like, can he still score enough? Like a takedown around, couple minutes of control time on average, assuming not probably too much ground and pound. Because that's really the only thing. Like, if he's on top, Ogden's a way better positional wrestler. Like, I think the better pure grappler, just way, like, I think he'll just be ahead of Raziov on the ground. But like you said, the takedown upside, I'd be surprised to see 5+, 6+ power. Like if it's on the feet, neither guy's going to get there. But Raziov's the guy I see having one shot. I mean, Ogden's never knocked nobody out. So for me, like I'm picking Ogden with you. It just feels like, just say they both win. I feel way better about Raziov having a chance at the optimal than Ogden. But do you not really see it as much?
No, I kind of feel like maybe Ogden would have higher upside if it was 29-28. Whoever the winner is. I just think that Loic can slow down enough to where Ogden can really put on some points in him in that 3rd round, where Loic's best round will be in round 1. But if you're not getting a knockout, then it doesn't even matter. And I don't think he's even hitting 5 takedowns. I would take the under on 4 takedowns, 3.5. Give me the under. So, yeah, I prefer Ogden. It's just that Ogden doesn't really have 110-point upside, in my opinion. He got it in his last fight, but that was because Holloway looked pathetic off of his back, and he was easy to take down. I don't think that's the same on the Loic side here, but Loic could get that first-round knockout, put up 110, and break the slate. And then we've also never seen 11 takedowns from Ogden. So if for some reason Loic is able to go in there and have 3 rounds of cardio, and he's looking to get some chain wrestling in place, then maybe he could get up there over 5. I just doubt it. So, yeah, I just prefer Ogden all around. I slightly favor him, I think.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I'll be playing both sides of this because I'm hoping / expecting it to play out mainly on the ground, takedowns, reversal, top control, one guy being a level above the other, someone getting tired. Always a lot of outs if you think a fight's going to play out on the mat in DraftKings new scoring. Let's keep it going. Next fight, the biggest favorite on the card, Miranda Maverick taking on Dion Barbosa. -227 is Maverick, +192 is Barbosa. This fight's +240 to finish. Maverick +375, Barbosa +500. So we have Barbosa taking this fight on short notice. It was going to be Maverick Tracy Cortez last week. This week. Tracy stepped in last week for Rose, obviously, to fight Rose for Barber. Man, interesting here. So obviously, round 1, I think, is where it's interesting. Maverick, the longer the fight goes, trains at elevation. Barbosa on short notice. I think Maverick wrestles, averages over 2 takedowns per 15. So I think Maverick down the stretch is fine. But round 1, I guess I'm going to throw it to you on this. If she can't get takedowns in round 1, lands 12 significant strikes, I'm afraid she's going to be set back so much that even round 2 and 3 domination, you would really need to run good in rounds 2 and 3, top control, ground and pound, an eventual finish to get that 100+. But looking at ownership, let me just double check quick. Yeah, we have her decently up there. I personally think Cody Gibson will be higher owned. I think Lee maybe will be higher owned because of that fight. She's definitely going to be one of the more popular people in the upper tier, though. And she has wrestling upside. She has takedown upside, control time upside. Is that enough in this fight, though? And then tell me how you see this fight early versus late, because I think cardio will be one of the bigger advantages.
Yeah, I think cardio is as well. But I would just give Barbosa the overall submission grappling edge in this one. But I give Miranda Maverick the wrestling edge, and I also give her the striking edge. So if Barbosa can't land takedowns and she's stuck on the feet, I just don't see that going great for her. But if Miranda's looking for a striking match, she's just not going to get there. She's not going to score enough to pay off a $9,200 salary. So we do need her to wrestle. But I just don't know that we're too worried off the back with Barbosa for her to really lock up a triangle or an armbar or something like that. I feel like Miranda Maverick would be fine in top control. Yeah. And Maverick has 6 UFC wins. She averages 104.5 DraftKings points on those wins. I like that. So she's one of my favorite to click on in that top range, but it's just, we don't have to click on anybody in that top range. I'd be fine with any lineup having $2,000 on the table in this one. But I do think she has some of the most takedown upside on the card. And she hasn't scored less than 85 in a win yet. 85 is not going to get there most likely on this card, but that's the only one of her scores that probably doesn't get there. So she is my preferred play. And I think Barbosa just has to lock up a submission to have any real ceiling here. And she's coming off a fight where she landed 2 takedowns. She also had a reversal, 5 minutes of control time. She only scored 77 points. So even as an underdog, 77 points, I just don't think would cut it. And I also don't think she's getting the 77 points against Miranda Maverick. So I'm not going to get much Barbosa, if at all. But Maverick is somebody I could see me being overweight on. My worry is just that she does have the striking edge, and she just looks to keep it on the feet. And if that's the case, she's not going to score well either. So don't have any locks on this card. I don't want anybody over 50% owned, I don't think. But I have 4 or 5 hand-built lineups so far, and Maverick's the one I've been clicking on the most.
I like it, and I agree with all that. I don't want anyone over 50%, I don't think, 55 max. I'll have no Barbosa in 20 or less either. I just don't think the ups. Again, I want 100+. Barbosa, sure, can he win? She can. Can she win? Absolutely. Maverick ownership then, which will be decent. She falls, you get leverage. But again, you need points. You need 100+ is how I'm looking at it. Since salary is not really an issue, 24 fighters, six of them score 100 plus, 90 plus at least. So Barbosa, easy fade for me and 20 and below. Wanted to shout out William, though. This is awesome. Just want to thank you guys. Took first place in the $12 single entry. You were in Arizona, Tombstone. I've been there. That's pretty cool. Awesome stuff. 5 lineups, $40 into 1,400. Congrats to you, William. Always see you in here as well. So awesome to see. It was a great weekend at SHIPIT Nation last week. Marley was on point with a lot of stuff. Montel Jackson, Julian Erosa. Tambo got a qualifier seat. I got a qualifier seat. That thumbs up on keeps going there, but it was good. Hey, it worked out last week, so that's okay. William ships, Neighbors shipped, Y Guy, he got a qualifier seat. He got a 444 ticket. So many screenshots in the MMA chat. So hoping to run it back this week. And awesome stuff, William. Don't spend it all in one spot. Let's keep it going. Next fight on the card, Cody Gibson taking on Brian Kelleher. Gibson, the second biggest favorite and the highest price on the card, 9,300 and minus 190. Brian Kelleher plus 165 on the way back, minus 145 for this fight to finish. Gibson plus 120 inside the distance. Kelleher plus 385. I'll toss it to you right away. What do you see in this one?
Yeah, this one I really just don't like very much because I think it's a pretty close fight. I give Gibson the overall striking edge. I think he's just a little bit faster. It could be higher volume as well, maybe more durable too. But the wrestling, I think, could go either way. And if Gibson is looking to wrestle, the most dangerous thing about Kelleher is his guillotine. So Kelleher could lock up a first-round guillotine, absolutely break the slate. Kelleher also likes throwing spinning back fists. It wouldn't shock me to see him knock out Gibson in the first round with one of those. But since I prefer Gibson, it's just that he's $9,300, and I think it's going to be hard for him to pay that off without a knockout. I don't think he's going to go out there and land 5+ takedowns in this matchup. I don't even know if he's going to shoot 5 takedowns in this matchup. And I also don't see it being as much of a war as that Katona fight was. I mean, even if he won that Katona fight, he was going to score 97. I mean, I would take 97. But I just don't see it being a fight like that. I just think they'll both be a little bit more lower volume. And if any one of these two is going to break the slate, it's going to be Kelleher at 6,900. I just don't believe in Kelleher anymore either. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this one. I'm not going to X either one of them out, but I'm also not going to have either one of them close to a core play. So it'll probably be like 10 to 25%, somewhere in that range on both of them. But I do prefer Gibson just because I don't really care about salary, and I have a feeling I can get to 9,300 in any lineup that I want to on this card. And there's a lot of underdogs that I like to win on this card, and Kelleher's not one of them. So I'll just probably be lower on him for that reason. But yeah, give me Gibson to win 2 rounds, 29-28.
Yeah, that all makes sense. I'll be playing both sides of this one because, I mean, the Gibson side's pretty easy. Plus 120 inside the distance, one of the best on the slate. Throw solid volume, taking on someone that had neck surgery, taking on a 37-year-old. Like, there's a lot that's going against Brian Kelleher. So Gibson, and it's like pricing's pretty much irrelevant. Like, he could be 9,300, then my next highest fighter is priced 8,300. Like, I could easily leave 1,000 on the table even with Gibson. So I think he has 100+ point upside. I'll definitely have some, but he's going to get ownership. And like you're saying with Kelleher, everyone's jumping off. I think he'll be one of the lowest owned on the card. He's lost his last 3. He's 37 years old. He had the neck surgery, but his last 3 losses: Umar Nurmagomedov, yeah, sure. Mario Batista, sure. Cody Garbrandt, like, sure. Like, those are 3 losses. I think Cody Gibson losing to all 3 of them. And you mentioned 2 things. Well, the spinning back fist stuff, and I think I think he has a right hand that's still a little underrated. But that guillotine too, like, he has outs to a finish. If Cody tries to shoot, he can lock in the guillotine. Kelleher, I don't know, maybe the technical advantage, maybe the one-punch power advantage. I am slow at 37, or I'm worried at 37. His footwork's a little slower, the volume, cardio, maybe the later this fight goes, but plus 385 inside the distance, low ownership, some leverage off one of the chalkier fighters on the card. I'll be playing some Brian Kelleher for cheap. And also, if you get that win at 100 at 6,900, I mean, there's like so many ways you can go. Leave 2K on the table. He could be the top 6 scorer on the slate. I'm not surprised. And then, yeah, the whole world's open in terms of lineup. So, yeah, excuse me. I'll be playing this fight, both sides. wouldn't be surprised if I'm more overweight to Kelleher, just because I do think Gibson comes in decently high owned on this card. But I would say if you think anybody is going to be optimal, play him regardless of ownership. There's plenty of spots to get different. Ownership spread out enough. So ownership always matters, and it does matter for this card, but I would argue it matters a little less for this card than a lot of other cards, especially for 12 fights. Keep it rolling. Next fight on the card. This should be a fun one. Zhang Yang Li taking on Hyder Amil. Li, one of the biggest favorites on the card himself at minus 192. Amil plus 167. This fight is minus 165 to finish. Li plus 130 inside the distance. Amil plus 325. I'm in on this fight. It's expected to finish. Hyder Amil loves to push the pace, get in your face. I think there could be takedown upside on both sides, volume upside, especially on the Amil side, which will force Li to fight. I think Amil pushing the pace will leave openings for Li. I think there's a lot of ways this fight can score on both sides. So I am in one of my favorite fights on the card to targets. Don't really have a preferred side, to be honest. If I had 40 Amil, 20 other side, or vice versa, I think I'm good rolling it. I'm good with if either of these two were my highest owned fighters on this card, or at least top 5, I'd also be good with that as well. One of my favorite fights to target. So how do you see it?
Yeah, I think Amil fights are just good fights to target always on DraftKings because he is aggressive. He'll push the pace, bring high volume, doesn't have the greatest defense. And that's what helps out Li is Li's dangerous on the feet. He's also got submissions in his game as well. So I think if Li is going to be on the optimal lineup, it's because of that Amil aggressiveness, and he probably finishes him at some point. But if Amil wins the fight at all, I just don't see how he scores under 10x, a $7,100 price tag, and he's probably more likely to score 90 plus. So I definitely like Amil on this one. Li has 2 UFC wins already. He averages 61.5 DraftKings points in those 2 wins. I just don't even think 61's in play for an Amil win. So I definitely like saving that $2,000 going to Amil. I think the line should be closer in this one. I think Amil is more likely to win a 3-round fight too. It's just that his aggressiveness could play against him. He could get cracked in the first round. Li scores 110 points, makes the optimal that way. But I just don't see Li winning a decision and having a great chance for the optimal lineup. I also just don't even really see Li winning a decision. I think it'll be tough for him to win that decision. So I'm going to get less than the field on Li, but I definitely do want exposure there. But for me, it'll be more hedge exposure because I do plan on being way overweight on the Amil side. He's one of my favorite underdogs on the card to click, and I like him to get the win in this one.
Yeah, when you're talking now too, I was like, I don't see too many paths where like Li wins the decision. I think there'd have to be knockdowns or like Amil feels the power early and gets a little tentative, but books don't agree. Books have plus 200 Li inside or Li by decision, plus 375 for Amil, and it's even wider at some books. So I think that's interesting too. I think if you tell me there's a decision in this one, I think it's probably on the Amil side. At least I would not think it's over 2-1, more likely on the Li side. So I agree with you there. I think Li is very live for the finish. Just again, Amil leaves openings, he'll push the pace. Li well-rounded, KO power, submission upside. I think both are in play on this one. And Amil, he's just always doing something. Definitely plenty of upside at 7,100. Great fight to target. And I see that, Williams. You spent it at Buc-ee's. If there's any place to spend some cheese, Buc-ee's is the place. Go gas station. And I'm sorry, fellow Wisconsinites. Quick Trip is good with a K, but it ain't Buc-ee's good. Keep it rolling.
Looking on DraftKings right now, and money line decision only means it's only graded if it goes to a decision. Amil is plus 150 there. So that is interesting, but it's also like maybe I want to play that actually.
Yeah.
Any finish from either one of them, it's a push.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't agree with that line, I guess. So maybe that's a play I'll have.
What's Li for that?
Minus 200.
Wow. Yeah. So it is a big difference there. Huh. Interesting. There you go. Big Marley gave out maybe a little sprinkle that he'll be throwing on Amil decision only prop. Let's keep it going. Next fight. Still plenty to talk about. Bill Algo, Do Ho Choi, minus 170. Algo plus 145 is Choi. Plus 135 for this fight to finish. And both guys plus 300 inside the distance. I don't know. This is another one that I've been kind of torn on, Big Marley. Like, the Algo side, not known to be a finisher. He does land a good volume, over 6 significant strikes per minute. But let's just say he lands 115 significant strikes in a decision win. I'm not sure that's enough. Now, I do think there could be some wrestling upside in this one. Lee just taken out 5 times by Kyle Nelson. Not a good look. Or Lee. Why do I keep saying Lee? There is a lot of Koreans, Asians, etc. on this card. Choi was taken down 5 times by Kyle Nelson. I mean, man, Algio, I think if it's competitive on the feet, which I expect, Algio probably the minute winner. I think Choi a little more power in his hands, at least one shot power. But I think Algio could mix in takedowns in this, but that's what I wanted to throw it to you. Because if you don't think he wrestles, I don't have as much interest. If you think wrestling's on the table, Algio has passed to get there. And then, yeah, I mean, Choi, he had all the hype in the world till that Cub Swanson Hall of Fame war. Obviously then served for his country, took time off, has lost his last couple before the draw against Kyle Nelson. But I don't know, man. I want your thoughts before you break it all down. Algio, do you think he wrestles? What's the upside on that side?
Yeah, I think he probably should.
We're down to 11 fights. Comment.
Yeah, that sucks.
If there's ever a card I will say to have 11 fights, this is one of the better ones. And if there's a fight to have off, this was one of the better ones, but 11's still not fun.
Damn it. Yeah, that sucks. That took my mind off of this fight too. So yeah, Algio, I feel like he could win anywhere, but I feel like if he's going to dominate the fight, he's going to have to get takedowns. Choi is primarily a striker, but he is an aggressive striker. He can go to war. I think Choi has more power, though. I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't shock me to see either one of them get a knockout, but for me, I'm just picking Choi to get the win. I mean, he hadn't had a win in like a decade almost, I feel like, but he should have won his last fight if he didn't have a point taken from him. And he looked pretty good coming back from that long layoff. So I'm just on the Choi side. I think this is one of the best fights to watch on the card. But if it's a striking match, it's going to be hard for Algio to pay off that price tag without getting some knockdowns or without getting a knockout. So I do think he's going to need to mix in some takedowns. And if he can, I think he could do enough work on the ground to score 90 plus, 100 plus points. So I'm cool with some Algio exposure. But I just would rather save that money, go to Choi. I think Choi's more live to get a knockout and absolutely break the slate at $7,300. But I don't see Choi mixing in takedowns and spending much time in top control, doing a lot of work on the ground. It's just he's only $7,300. So any win from Choi, even if it is a striking match, could pay that off because he is aggressive and he can go to war. And Algio will eat a lot of shots too. So I'm cool with either side in this one, but I just think the line should be a little bit closer. Give me Choi to pull off the upset.
Man, that is disappointing. I've only seen one thing on Twitter so far. There's 2 things.
I saw it on there too.
Yeah, and they both weighed in, which is really interesting too. Park weighed in at 186. He weighed in a while ago. Huh. Yeah, 11 fights. 11 fights. Again, not really much changes. Ownership means a little more. Ownership always means something. Ownership, I guess, might mean a good bit more. Salary, you can still leave a ton. Main events, the fight that's going to get all the ownership, so like more viable to fade that, I guess, to get different. But I don't know. It's not like the Tavares Park fight was going to get a ton of ownership, I didn't think, especially the Tavares side. But ownership was going to be spread out enough, like 30+% combined is a lot of ownership. So disappointing, but what are we going to do? Control the controllables. That is out of our control. What's in our control is this next fight, Big Marley, and this should be a fun one. One of my favorites, entertainment-wise, on the card. Cody Durden, Bruno Silva. I mean, man, depends what book you look at, but Bruno Silva is the favorite at most spots now. -115 for Silva, -105 for Cody, +135 for this fight to finish. Silva +195 inside the distance. Durden +510. I will say that Silva inside the distance prop open +275, now +195. That is a lot of line movement. I'm on the Silva side. I just think Durden has to fight the perfect fight. I was on Silva when he was a dog, now the favorite, but like all the finish upside is on Silva's side, whether it's a knockout, whether it's a submission. Durden, I think, has to fight a really, really good fight for 15 minutes. I think he needs takedowns early, needs control time, or at least he needs to keep transitioning to the back, side control. Like he just needs to stay on him like glue because that space, I think it's Silva all day. if Silva can reverse the position or find Cody's back or something, like submissions are very much in play. I just think Bruno's more dangerous. Then everything you heard about this week was used to be teammates. Bruno Silva wanted this fight. Like, there's probably a reason. Bruno probably was dogging him in the gym. I don't know, man. Bruno, a lot lines up for him. I like to see him as the favorite now unless ownership moves a lot. With all that being said, though, I'm going to be playing Cody Durden in DFS because, I mean, wrestle. If Cody does win, could be 5+ takedowns, 8+ minutes of control time. Has a great DFS style. But, yeah, I got Silva in this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think Silva's just a better all-around fighter. I think he could win by any method. I think he's more likely to get the knockout because every strike that he throws is trying to knock his opponent's head off. I also think he's got better submission defense, good submission offense. He can mix in takedowns. But I think that if Silva wins, he's probably getting like between 2 and 4 takedowns. Whereas if Durden wins, he kind of needs to rely on chain wrestling in this one, and he could get maybe 8 takedowns and have a decent amount of control time in the process. So I do think both of them have 100-point upside. I just would rather save that $400. I do slightly favor Silva in this matchup. And as I mentioned, he can win by any method where I just don't see Durden submitting Silva. And I also don't really see him knocking him out. So I think if Durden wins, it is going to be by a decision, and he's going to have to land 6+ takedowns to have any shot at 90+ points here. And I don't think it's going to be as easy for him to do that in this matchup as it has been in others. So give me Silva as my overall play. I do think this fight will get a good amount of ownership, though, being right there in the mid range. So I don't really hate going underweight to it as a whole, but I do think I'll be underweight to Durden and maybe around the field, possibly higher on Silva. I don't know what I'm going to do with his side because I like half the underdogs on this card to get the win. He's only an underdog on DraftKings at this point, and I do think with him being a slight favorite, his ownership will go up with it. So, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with him, but I do see me being underweight to the Durden side. But give me Silva to win.
Yeah, I'm with you. But, and yeah, I think Silva wins. There's plenty of opportunities. This fight isn't optimal. Silva wins a decision, damage over control time, 3rd round KO. Silva gets controlled the first 2 rounds. Like, you can get away from this fight if you think Silva wins. If Durden wins, a little harder, I think, to get away. But, yeah, 11 fights. This fight's going to definitely get some ownership. I'm not going to make any rules. Maybe now the main event in 20 or less, I'll jam it in. But, again, that's a way to get different is fade the main event. So, not quite sure yet. But 11 fights, yeah, Siggy's in here. Have a good day, Siggy. Very sad. We'll keep it going, though. Still a couple fights left. What, now 1, 2, 3 fights left to talk about. Kaman Krzyzewski taking on Kurt Holobaugh. Krzyzewski -130. Holobaugh +110. -180 for this fight to finish. Krzyzewski +145. Holobaugh +215. Another one of my favorite fights on the card. One of the most likely to finish at -180 as well. Big Marley, I'm going to throw it to you on this question. How much of it plays out on the mat? Because Holobaugh loves to grapple. Krzyzewski can grapple. Or sometimes when you get 2 wrestler grapplers going at it, they negate each other and it turns into a stand-up fight. So how do you see this fight playing out? Because I think that answers a lot of questions. I know I'll be playing it, but I want it on the mat for reversals, takedowns, control time. Do you see it that way?
No, I actually don't. I think it mostly takes place on the feet. With Holobaugh, I feel like he should want the fight on the feet. The biggest flaw I saw in this Krzyzewski guy was his chin. He's been knocked out at least twice, and I've seen him cracked in other fights as well. And Holobaugh has power. So I actually like Holobaugh to get a knockout at some point in this fight. And then Krzyzewski, he has I want to say 11 submissions or something like that, never been submitted. So when I was starting film, I was looking for him to go out there and start wrestling and dominating people on the mat. But he just is not an aggressive wrestler at all. He looked like he wants to keep fights on the feet. He will push forward, but he's not a real high volume striker. So at $8,700, I feel like we need a finish from Krzyzewski because I don't think he's going to rack up enough takedowns to be able to get there in a 3-round decision. I didn't think that about Ogden either, and Ogden completely dominated him. He had 12 minutes of takedown control time. So, I mean, I guess it wouldn't completely shock me. But the way I saw Krzyzewski is that he just wants to go out there, walk forward. I think he is the more technical striker of the two, but I kind of like Hollabaugh to be the more dangerous striker, possibly higher volume as well. Hollabaugh can land takedowns. He might even be the more aggressive wrestler of the two. But Krzyzewski is a good grappler. He's dangerous with the guillotine, so I just don't think Hollabaugh is going to be looking for it that much. I think he's going to be more so looking for that knockout, and I like him to get it. So I'll be overweight to Hollabaugh. I will be underweight to Krzyzewski.
Makes sense. I'm going to play some Krzyzewski after Hollabaugh was dominating the mat. Krzyzewski has looked to wrestle. He does have solid submissions. I'm going to hope when I do play him in those lineups that he does wrestle some. Plus 145 inside the distance is good. Hollabaugh getting up there in age, third UFC stint. So after what I saw Ogden happen, I'm definitely going to play Krzyzewski side. I'm also definitely going to play the Hollabaugh side as well, though. 2 fights left, Big Marley. Man, the vibe changed a little bit. 11 fights just tilts me so hard. Steve Garcia, hey, on a good note, though, banger alert. Steve Garcia, Sung Woo, Choi, minus 149 for Big Steve, plus 129 for Choi, minus 500 for this fight to finish. Garcia, minus 110 inside the distance. Choi, plus 165. I mean, man, I think these two are going to stand in the middle in a small octagon and throw until someone falls. That'll score well. I got a first-round knockout on the Steve side, but you tell me Choi wins, I'm not surprised at all. I'm going to look at ownership on this one right now. I'm not going to say it out loud because I know you're adjusting with the park news and all of that.
Just finished first run, though, so we're...
Oh, nice. You did. So I will say it. 43 for Steve and 30 for Choi. I think that's where I think Steve gets steam. So I was more inclined to play, like, not care about ownership. I think Steve knocks him out. Maybe I'll play more Steve. On an 11-fight card, not losing that fight, maybe like Steve in single entry when I can get different in other places and I feel comfortable there. But I probably will have more Choi now. I think he's going to be lower owned. I think he's the game theory play. You can build Steve lineups, take him out, go to Choi, leave 1K. I have to be more cognizant on that now with 11 fights than I did with 12. So, yeah, my pick's Steve, but I probably have more Choi now.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck I'm going to do with this one. I am going to load up on it, like minus 500 that the fight doesn't go to decision. It's like minus 115 or so that the fight ends in round 1. Garcia has 6 knockdowns in his UFC fights, and he's been knocked down 5 times. Choi has 5 knockdowns in his UFC fights, and he's been knocked down 5 times as well. So, I feel like we're going to get some knockdowns, probably a knockout at some point. They're right there in the mid-range, and if there is a knockout in the first round, it's just a lock for the optimal lineup. So let me just take shots, throw this in like 80% of my total lineups, possibly more if there is a lock on this card. Fight-wise, it's this one. If I'm going to be 100% on any fight, this is my favorite one. But I favor Choi to be the more technical fighter, the better fighter at range. And then I like Garcia to close the gap, and I like him to be able to brawl more, possibly more likely to mix in takedowns as well. Better grappler of the two. So I do prefer Garcia as my preferred play, but so does the field. So I don't hate the idea of going to more Choi. It's just that, as I mentioned before, I'm picking multiple underdogs, like half the underdogs on this card to win. So I prefer clicking on them rather than Choi. But this is just one where if I'm building 150 lineups on the optimizer, I want to make sure that I have at least 80% of this fight. And if it gives me 100, then I'm cool with it, because I do think that the winner's going to score well. Even in the decision, I think we have a chance to score 90-plus points in this one. So, yeah, give me Garcia to win, but I'm cool with either side as my preferred play. If it gives me more Choi, then I'm good with it.
So you like that fight more than the main event we're about to talk about?
Yeah, a little bit. That's my second favorite fight, but I think it'll have more ownership, I think.
Yeah, it'll have more ownership. I think you're right, too. All right, well, let's get into the main event. Again, appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Started with 12 fights, now down to 11. Everyone weighed in, though, so, I mean, I guess Park weighed in, too, and that fight's off, so I don't know what that all says. Fingers crossed we have 11 fights, though. Again, if there was ever to be a good 11-fight card, I will say we at least have that. So many closely lined fights, only 22 fighters and combinations. I still don't think it's a stacking card, but it's not going to be as heavily duped on an 11 fight card as other ones, is my thought process. So I'll still be in the streets, the same action as I planned. We will see on that. But coming off a big week at the Nation. Again, if you want to join us, we do have weekly, monthly, 6-month, annual options. Weekly and monthly make sense, I guess, if you want to do that and not be locked in for the year. But our best deal right now is the early bird NFL special, $299 for everything for NFL. Gets you free college football as well. College football content going to be last year wasn't charged at all. Again, we're still not charging it because it's part of this deal. But Smarty was in the Discord all the time, absolutely printing people money. Now we have DGen coming over with the Stone, with projections, $299 with the Shiptimizer for NFL. Gets you college football as well. And then if you sign up today, all of our access until NFL season, MMA, PGA, MLB, best ball, NASCAR. I mean, this graph says it all. I'm not even going to say it, nothing else. This graph, look at that total at our place. Look at the 4 competitors. Spend less on tout sites. Spend more in your contest to try and make money. That's why everyone plays. You got to invest in contests to make money at the end of the day. Let's talk main event, Big Marley. This one's going to be good. I think very tough to cap as well. Verna Jandiroba taking on Amanda Lemos, -130. Jandiroba +110 is Lemos. This fight is -190 to finish. Lemos +170. Jandiroba +180. If I had to go all in on a fight, it would be this one. I didn't plan to initially. I'm still not sure I'm going to make a rule. But if I had 100% of this fight, I totally would be good with it. Classic grappler versus striker. Expected to finish. Both girls under +200 inside the distance as well. The longer the weeks went on, the more I'm thinking Lemos is going to sting her with the right hand. The more the week goes on. But I guess I'll throw it to you on this and you can break it down. Is there a bigger striking gap, or is there bigger for Lemos, or is there a bigger grappling gap for Jandiroba?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it is pretty binary in that way, where if the fight's on the ground, it's Jandiroba winning, and if there's a finish on the ground, it's Jandiroba getting a submission. And if the fight stays on the feet, it's Lemos winning. If there's a knockout, it's Lemos. But the way I kind of see it for DraftKings is if Jandiroba wins this fight, it's going to be either a submission or she wins 3 rounds, primarily on the ground, gets 3+ takedowns, lots of control time, and I think she is a lock to score more than 10x or 8,500 salary. Where I don't think this is an all-in fight is because of the Lemos side. If Lemos loses 2 rounds, she spends 8 minutes on her back, and then she wins 3 rounds. I could see her winning with like a 79-point score and just not making the optimal by her winning the other 3 rounds on the feet, no knockdowns, no takedowns. So that's why it's not an all-in fight for me. And I do think that's kind of how I see it going down. I think Jandiroba will take a round or 2 on the ground, but with 5 rounds, I don't know if she's going to be able to, Jandiroba, I don't know if she's going to be able to wrestle enough to lock up 3+ rounds. And she's also not a great wrestler. She's a very good grappler. She's a good control grappler, but I don't know how great she's going to be at landing those takedowns. So I like Lemos to win this fight. Give me 3 rounds from Lemos or possible TKO. I think TKO is how she breaks the slate, but a decision from Lemos, I don't know how likely that is to be on the optimal lineup, because I do think she will be spending some time on her back. So that's why I like the other fight more than this one. But yeah, I like Lemos to get the win. And if I'm going to be betting this fight, it's going to be the Lemos side.
I like it. Yeah. I'm like, again, if I had 50-50 this fight, I'm good. 60-40 either side, I'm good. 40-40 with some fades, I'm good. Like, I'm not going to make any rule pre-flop, I have decided. But this and Steve Garcia are the 2 clear fights for me that I want the most of. I think the field will see that as well. Again, overview, 12 fights down to 11. So you do have to be a little more ownership, conscientious, if that's even the right word. You get what I'm saying, than I originally thought. Still can leave a bunch of salary. Yeah, I mean, 11 fights is a little unfortunate, but DFS 100K up top, no favorite above -225. If there ever was to be an 11 fight card, I will say it's the worst card with 11 now. Has to be the worst card of the year that the UFC is putting out for casual fans that tune in without putting a dime on it. But DFS wise, we're still alive. It's got to be the best 11 fight DFS card, I'll say. Final thoughts for the people, Big Marley.
Yeah, even 11 fights, I feel like we can get a solo shipper on this one. So good luck to you. Hope it's one of us, but if not, hopefully it's somebody listening. Good luck to you guys as well. Let's ship it.
Let's ship it is right. And again, head over to ShipItNation.com. Get in on the early bird NFL special. Then you get all the MMA this week, NASCAR, MLB, PGA, and of course, shout out our sponsor, Drafters. Head over to Drafters.com. They will match 100% from $20 to $100. Probably some overlay in the best ball streets as well. We have a Discord talking about it. Big Marley and I go live once a week as well. So head over to Drafters.com. Use that promo code SHIPIT. We appreciate everybody hanging out with us. 11 fights at the Apex. Let's make some money tomorrow, Big Marley. What do you say? For Big Marley, I'm Titletown. Have a good week and be safe. Let's ship it.